Hello, this is going to be a short and temporary news segment. Per suggestion of a good friend of mine, Mr. Ryan Burns, I have decided to join in on the hashtag 100 horror movies in 92 days. And if I'm not mistaken, 92 days brings us to about Halloween. I'm a huge fan of horror movies, so this sounds like it's right up my alley, and the challenge says that you must watch 100 horror movies that you haven't seen yet. And so the first horror movie that I decided to pick was The Empty Man, directed by David Pryor, also written by David Pryor, and it's based on a graphic novel by, let me get the artist and writer, Cullen Bunn. From Boom Studios. It's a graphic novel. It stars James Badge Dale, Marin Ireland, Sasha Frolova, and a series of other fantastic artists and actors. Looking at the IMDb, it's got kind of mediocre reviews and ratings and things, and I get that, but here's my look at it from a person that really appreciates good horror in all sorts and sizes. Shapes and sizes, if you will, too. I thought it was fantastic. This was a very fresh and different approach to how horror can be portrayed in today's world. We've been long gone from the days of jump scare heaven, where it's like Paranormal Activity and the slasher movies are kind of gone and dead. The horror genre is a little bit in limbo, I want to say. But it's not dead by any means. I just think that it's lacking. This movie, though, what I look for a horror movie, I look for something that has something intriguing, something that's a bit of a mystery, something that leaves me thinking about what I saw. So movies like Hereditary, which unfortunately I can't watch because it's not part of the movies that I haven't seen yet. Movies like Noroi, The Curse. Those are movies that leave me thinking and wanting to see more and trying to understand more of the mystery, more of the unknown, and more of the stuff that you don't understand in that particular world, or whatever you saw, whatever the director was showing you, whatever the writer has told you. The Empty Man was kind of like that. Now, it's got kind of a crappy title, but don't let that fool you. This is not your typical urban legend movie. Yes, some of it is based around these teenagers that summon this empty man, supposedly, and then stuff happens. But it's a high quality movie. I don't know a whole lot about cinematography. I'm going to be the first to admit that. Good shots, bad shots, I don't really know. But even looking at this trailer here, you can see that there's some really good things being shown in there, and they're shown in such a dramatic way that it doesn't linger too long on the shot, but almost everything makes you uncomfortable. There were many times where they would play with your horror tropes, the over-the-shoulder shot, where as a seasoned horror fan, you will most likely look behind that person and just watch that, and it plays along with that. It kind of builds the anticipation and the fear, and it does that so many times in this movie, and it's so good the way that they execute the atmosphere of it. It's not about the jump scares, it's more about an existential dread. Kind of how Hereditary was once you realize what the problem was and what caused everything, you're like, oh my god, I really don't have any control over things. But with this one, it's that existential dread mixed with a fantastic atmosphere, created about 80% of it being the sound design, because it's an urban legend based on blowing into a bottle at an empty bridge at night. There's sounds that mimic that, like Buddhist chanting and little murmurs And then like the clinking of bottles, like distinct high note things that happen in the background, and little noises like the clacking of a coin on a hard surface. Stuff like that sticks out in the middle of all this atmosphere. And it really immerses you in this kind of madness, and it brings out that paranoia. I love it. I love it. I think I can understand why people would not like this movie. It does have a bit of a long runtime. It's about 2 hours and 16 minutes according to HBO Max. It is currently on HBO Max as of the day this is being recorded. But details on the plot-wise, I don't want to say anything about what happens to it other than the very basis thing, because there's a lot to spoil. And everything is sort of interconnected. It's one of those things. And it doesn't feel like it's interconnected, but everything makes sense by the end of things. So, the basic plot line is that an ex-cop is trying to help his friend with a missing persons case. Her daughter's missing. And so he goes to investigate all the little leads that he can find, and he talks to her friends, and they lead him to this whole urban legend of the empty man and how they tried summoning him on the bridge and all that. But other than that, that's all I'll get into. Like I said, the horror element of this movie really stood out for me. I'm very glad that I watched it. It gave me a lot of ideas for the creepy things that I'll send to my players in D&D, that's for sure. So, I don't think this is too fantastical. As a horror person, you have to suspend your disbelief for a lot of this kind of thing. But even if you do, or even if you don't suspend your disbelief on these kinds of things, it's still very creepy. There's some real world stuff that could actually happen in this. Not the supernatural part, but the parts that are in the latter half of the movie that are so batshit insane that you can't help but think, okay, there's gotta be people like that out there. So, anyway, no spoilers. I highly recommend it. I think you should watch it. Again, it's on HBO Max, and I'm sure you can rent it on Amazon Prime and all that. Please support these people, David Pryor and his team. They worked really hard on this movie. It's sort of an indie project. Nobody's really talking about it. I heard about it from Chris Stuckman, which he's an up-and-coming filmmaker, and he was a movie reviewer on the YouTubes, which is what this trailer is coming from. The trailer, by the way, is from the official 20th Century Studios thing. So, you're welcome, 20th Century Studios. For everyone else, please support the movie, please support the director and their team, and just have fun. I'll see you in the next movie. Bye.